Marcella, Unilever has been, in many ways, at the forefront of this agenda. Paul, of course, emphasizing that human rights and climate change are inextricably linked. Which human rights challenges are you dealing with currently, and how do you see the link between climate change playing out in your own value chain? First question. And secondly, how at Unilever are you, as you look at the transition that's underway in our economy and what's required, how can you ensure that the benefits of our responses to climate change actually filter down and have an impact on the lives of our poorest and most vulnerable communities? So, Marcella.
Okay, easy question, huh? Quite challenging. Do I have my picture? Okay. So, knowing that my predecessors were going to address the issues that they were addressing, I thought that probably I was going to try to bring us a little bit more into the social side, the development side of the equation. So there are many pictures that can put a human face to climate. There are many pictures that are worth 1,000 words. And for me, when I look into many of these issues and when I look into this picture, it just struck me. And I will tell you in a second why it struck me, but I want to ask you, what do you see when you see this picture? I'm going to put David Schilling there on the spot. Because, Chas, I like you so much.
Desperation.
Desperation. What else do we see? Yeah. That's it. For me, when I look into this, there were many pictures, and I had to say, when Annabelle gave me this task, I really took it seriously, and I was struggling because you can see so many pictures that address development, climate justice, and rights as we want to see it. But what it was really important for me, what it came to my mind was hope. It was hope. I mean, what else will drive someone to get into that little boat, if we can call it a boat? And also, it's, as you were saying, I could see their faces. You see a mother grabbing the child, the partner of family putting the arm around everybody, and knowing what we know that they step into that boat and probably their life savings just to get on that boat. And sorry if I choke because it's really critical, I mean, for us to understand. And we know that the other side of that hope is the desperation, whether it's because of environmental crisis or political crisis or economic downturn. People move and they are vulnerable, and that vulnerability may put them in that boat, but hoping that they can make the journey. And the chances are quite low. I mean, the chances that they survive that journey are quite low. The chances that they land and that they have a good job, they have good protections, they have land to farm, that they have the opportunities that probably all of us are here and enjoying, and are very, very low. Slave trade was abolished in this country in the 1800s, early 1800s. 200 years later, we are facing the same issues. Human trafficking is a crime. Human trafficking is illegal. And human trafficking is modern-day slavery. There are more or less 36 million people every year affected, impacted by human trafficking. And impacts every right, the right to water, the right to sanitation, the right to housing, the right to work, to freedom of movement. Impacts every single basic universal right that all these people in that boat have, deserve. So vulnerable people are trafficked every day in every part of the world. And we know And even if we know that fact, but all of us may be somehow involved, even if we don't want to. It may be in the food. We have learned about fish meal in Thailand. It may be in the microchips. It may filter in our supply chains. And every single company, and I think that, John, you will join me, all of us says we have zero tolerance for this, and yet it permeates. The UN High Commission for Refugees estimate that there are more or less 360,000 refugees that have crossed the Mediterranean during the last months only. So there can be no development, there can be no climate justice, there can be absolutely no progress in the way that we all want it with these conditions. So at Unilever, we believe that we need to address this. And I'll address, since you all address climate justice, and I knew you were gonna do that, we can talk about displacement because of climate issues, and I have reminded us of the Typhoon Haiyan in the Philippines. If you remember, I mean, there were 7,000 deaths and 4 million people displaced. The tsunami in the year 2005 was at 225,000 deaths, 1.2 million displaced. From 2009 to 2014, approximately 27 million people have been displaced for natural disasters alone. And UNEP estimates that by 2050, there will be approximately 50 million people alone displaced in Africa. So it is a significant issue. So what do we do at Unilever? I mean, Paul is a fearless leader, as you all know and have pointed, and it's a privilege for me to be working with such a visionary. And we have done many things. I mean, among those things is we really embedded these principles that we are talking about in our strategy. We like to envision, simply put, we like to envision business that had these principles as the foundation, and make no mistake, I mean, we are humbled by the challenge and really excited about the opportunity, but we need to transform together. We need to transform every element, addressing the social issues together with climate. And I started in this field in the early 90s. And the 90s was marked by this separate movement of the social movement and the green movement. And we didn't put it together. Well, I mean, how can we have it separate? I mean, they feed into each other. So we want to do that. And last year, in recognition of many of the challenges, including the issue of human trafficking, we expanded our strategy, the USLP, and we really created a clear focus on human rights. And we talk about fairness in the workplace, and we talk about the UN guiding principles of business and human rights, but it's not talk. It's just how can we embed this in every single element of what we do. And I often say, when I came to Unilever 2.5 years ago, they said to me, well, what is success for you? And I said, well, 172,000 people that we have in our company understanding what it means for them in their job. Not someone else, not someone in Africa, not someone, but to them. Every single one of us are impacting that. So how do we transform ourselves? So we have it in the strategy. We have definitely a human rights policy, and we talk about, throughout the USLP strategy about climate and climate justice. And right now, I mean, what it preoccupies me is talking about curative versus preventive. I mean, we are after stopping a wrong. But what does it, when we get down with that, what good would looks like? And one of the things that we did also last year, even working with our suppliers, was try to figure it out, that question. It's not about just an issue that we need to eradicate of climate, for climate justice, or eradicating child labor, or no sexual harassment. No. It's about what do we do? What is the face of good? And that's what is really preoccupying us and what we are really involved right now. What good looks like, and tackling the root causes. We believe, I mean, the second element that we expanded in our strategy was women's economic empowerment. Kofi Annan said it many years ago, I mean, there's no other tool so impactful for development than women. and the whole realm of it, 360 degrees from, from environmental, climate issues all the way to the social issues. Women invest significantly in the community. It was mentioning, you mentioned today land's right. I mean, not only land right, but let us look into also the role of women and what is the impact that is going to have. And the third pillar of our enhancing livelihoods was inclusive business. And inclusive business, we are addressing now the most vulnerable communities. We are addressing smallholder farmers, we are addressing youth. I mean, I was so excited to hear you, because what it gets me out of bed every day is to think about you, the youth, my kid and every single kid in this planet. And, but even when you address issues of the smallholder farmers, if we succeed on that, the smallholder farmers is the next generation. We are one notch up. And then you have the landless workers. And those landless workers, who are in general in informal work, are these workers that you see in the picture. The ones that come and have no right, and it's happening all over. Look into the movement of people, refugees from Georgia, from Syria, moving in Africa. So we need to pay really close attention, and we are working on that. I really endorse, I mean, you were talking about we cannot do it by ourselves, John. All of you have said it. I mean, it's impossible, and I like to believe, and recently we issued a report, and we talk about collective responsibility. It's not about pointing, and it's just recognizing that we cannot do it by ourselves. I mean, that we need to figure it out, how to do it together. And we don't need another tragedy, another disaster, etc., to figure it out what should be the preemptive work that we need to do. So we are focusing on that. And whether we are working with Solidaridad, we signed a partnership and we are looking into sustainable agriculture, but also social issues. Or if you think about the deforestation movement that the consumer goods company have embarked on, well, let us look into the migrant workers working in those plantations. Not the ones, I mean, migrant labor is not a bad thing, actually, it's a fantastic opportunity for many. It's when those workers start being vulnerable and abused that there is a problem. So we are looking into that. The Gherkin farms in India, they focus on women, that brought economic growth for them, and with drip irrigation, we reduced 70% the use of water in a very, water-scarce region, and increased 84% the yields. So we can continue. I mean, we are humbled by the task, but we are very excited and grateful by the opportunity. And we are working hard every day to make it happen. We have teams who are focused on this, and as Pope Francis says, you just cannot, separate the man from nature. So we are working on that.
Thank you very much, Marcela.
Thank you.